Turns out the M in BLM stands for money. Whatever you think about the Black Lives Matter movement, one thing is true. It made a lot of people rich. The BLM organization took in tens of millions of dollars, with Patrisse Cullors, who called herself a trained Marxist, making sure that money went straight to the needy. Her and her family.
Yes, Patrisse Cullors. She has not only been at the helm of Black Lives Matter for more than 6 years, but she was one of the 3 co-founders, and she's going to be leaving to focus on her book and TV deals. This is a woman who identifies as a trained Marxist, Rowan. And as we know, BLM, if you actually look at their charter and what they push, they're unashamedly Marxist, anti-capitalist. But we've also found out that she has accumulated quite an impressive multi-million-dollar property portfolio, and BLM continues to enjoy support from all those dim-witted corporates who back a company that is anti-capitalist. It's bizarre, but here we are.
She went on a real estate spending binge, spending millions on 4 homes, another $6 million on a secret mansion in Los Angeles, and then millions of dollars more to friends and family members for random services. But this wasn't limited to just BLM. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. You had a wave of pseudo-academics rushing in to squeeze as much as they could out of so-called anti-racism. There's white woman Robin DiAngelo, who wrote White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. You know what's not hard? Charging tens of thousands of dollars for lectures and retreats to teach people to try and, quote, be a little less white. It's actually really easy to be a little less white. Just go outside for a few hours. And then there's the grifter-in-chief Ibram X Kendi, a pusher of critical race theory who exploded onto the scene during the BLM riots. So after George Floyd's death in 2020, with his book How to Be an Antiracist, another weird how-to guide for guilty white people, Kendi managed to cement himself at the center of the so-called anti-racism movement, pushing the idea that racism is the single driving cause behind all of our problems. He believes that if a difference can be linked to race, racism is to blame, whether it is or not. He said, when I see racial disparities, I see racism. He also argues that to be an anti-racist, you also have to be an anti-capitalist. But just like the Marxists over at BLM, that didn't stop him from charging $20,000 an hour for virtual meetings, or raking in millions of dollars in donations through his anti-racism center. An anti-racism center that is now imploding because people are waking up to the reality that this was all just one massive money-making scheme. Former employees are now turning on his organization for laying off about half of its staff, and Boston University has announced that they're launching an inquiry to investigate complaints of failed leadership and financial mismanagement. One former faculty member even accused the think tank of unemployment violence. Here's how the Boston Globe described Kendi's anti-racism center. Since its announced launch in June 2020, just days after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, the center has raised tens of millions of dollars from tech entrepreneurs, Boston area corporations, and thousands of small donors. At the time, Kendi, the author of the best-selling 2019 book, How to Be An Antiracist, said the center would solve these intractable racial problems of our time. But that doesn't look like it happened. The organization was just being mismanaged on a really fundamental level, said Philippe Copeland, a professor in BU's School of Social Work who also worked for the center as Assistant Director of Narrative. Amazing Orwellian title. Although most decision-making authority rested with Kendi, Copeland said he found it difficult to schedule meetings with him. Other staffers described paralysis in the organization because Kendi declined to delegate authority and was not often available. So to recap, according to Ibram X Kendi, a racist policy is anything that produces or sustains racial inequity between racial groups. Ibram X Kendi took in millions of dollars from corporations looking to buy their way out of BLM guilt, and it looks like the money was basically flushed down the toilet. I guess that makes him a racist too.